And we are live. Bruins lose game 3, 6-2. Down on the series now, 2-1. That's Carl Corazzini. I'm Evan Marinofsky. We're presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 matched on the first deposit. And go to Game Time. Use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, if you want to go to Game 4, you can use the Game Time app. So CLNS is the promo code. Tough one tonight. This was not a great one. Means. Where do you want to start? What's your sort of initial takeaway from tonight?
You followed up that third period, and we sat here and we talked the other day about you did. I'm not going to say because I didn't like it, but you said
I did. I stand by that. I did.
You said, "Oh, that's great pushback, great job stepping up." Where was the sense of urgency in the first two periods? 8 shots through 2 periods at home. And so now you're now you're down 4-0 and you decide to play the game. It's not good enough. Like, you've got to start the game with that sense of urgency, with that forecheck. You can't sit back anymore and then chase pucks. You're consistent, and this isn't, and I don't want to say, like, Florida's been through the last 2 games the better team, but the Breakout has been consistent for the whole playoffs. Chip it off the glass, go chase it. And when you have to chase the puck consistently, you don't have it. And so you've got to figure out a way to be able to exit the zone in order to have some sort of success, to have possession of the puck. You can't consistently chip it up the glass, and that's on them. That's something that they have not been able to make an adjustment to. It's not just that the team's forecheck, the Toronto and Florida are forechecking that well. You've decided that let's not turn over the pucks, which you still do. Let's chip it up the glass and go chase it down. It's brutal.
To me, like, they chased the game, the whole game. The Bruins did. I mean, chasing pucks in the offensive zone and then sitting back in the forecheck. That was my other thing. Like, they'd chip it in deep. Panthers would get there first, and then you just saw the Bruins back off a bit. And I just, it's stuff like that where it's like, what are you doing? Like, be on them, and there just wasn't enough of that. And, obviously there were problems in the Bruins end. The turnover issues continue. Swayman saved them a number of times tonight. Again, this score could have been 10. Like, I just, and again, like, the third period was nice. They fought back a little bit there, but where was that at the start? You got 3 shots in the first period. Like, again, it goes back to, and you hit on this early, you look at how that last game ended. Pastrnak drops the gloves, the comments made, you think, all right, they're going to come out absolutely just firing. And they didn't at all. And I mean, you can blame the refs all you want. They didn't lose tonight because of the refs. That was not why they lost. They lost because there's no puck management at all. And they're chasing the play. They're chasing the play in their own zone. They're chasing the play in the offensive zone. And they can't get to interior ice either, Carl. That's the other thing. The 2 times they did, they scored. But they can't get there either.
Yeah, and so I saw David Palmer, and this will go to your interior ice. I think David Palmer asked the question, do you want D to get into the rush? What rush?
There's no rush.
What rush? And so you're talking about getting into interior ice. You haven't established a forecheck enough to go low to high. There is no interior ice to get to if you don't have the puck.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on this.
You don't have the puck, so you can't join the rush. You don't have the puck. You can't get to interior ice. You don't have the puck. You can't score goals. They don't have possession of the puck. They just don't have possession of the puck. I'm just going to say it like your CLNS. They don't have possession of the puck. The game's really hard. Like, I do this with the kids all the time, right? Like, the most important thing in the game of hockey, and they'll throw out all sorts of random answers, it's the puck. Then I'll answer my own question, and then I'll throw it in in the bench area. I was like, if you don't have the puck, the game stinks. So the Bruins right now,
stunk tonight.
Yeah, the Bruins don't have the puck. Their game stunk.
It did. It really it comes down to that. And then I think this hits at a bigger question of, we talked about this after Game 6 against the Leafs, and it's like, do you have the personnel that are good enough to drive play, to hold on to the puck and have zone entries? I don't know if you do. To me tonight, it looked a lot like Pastrnak just trying, different things, trying way too hard. Not way too hard. I mean, he was trying to get going, and just they don't have that caliber, another person of that caliber. Marchand was out for the third period too. That was, another note. We'll get to that in a bit. But, I mean, I don't know if you have the personnel against this Florida team. Because the Bruins did themselves no favors. But, I mean, Florida also just overpowers them. That's the other thing, right? Like in the Bruins' own zone, to me, the Panthers just look so much better in the Bruins' end.
See, I don't want the Panthers are better. I'm just going to put that out there. The Panthers are better. Now, let's take a step back, though, if we can, and step back in time. Riley, Liljegren, can you name Toronto's 4 other defensemen? I can't. Lyubushkin.
Edmondson.
Sure. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is anytime you zone exit with efficiency, you usually have puck moving, good defensemen. Toronto didn't. There were games where they were out shooting you 2-1. There was a game where they had 39 shots. This is solely on I can't say solely, because Florida obviously is a really good team that forechecks hard, that makes the breakout harder. But your lack of energy or your consistent desire to stick with this passive 1-2-2 that doesn't allow you to get any turnovers, then doesn't create any pressure on Florida to defend, makes the game so much easier for them. And so it allows them to have possession of the puck. And when they get possession of the puck, they get it to the red, they get it in deep, and they are aggressively
forecheck the hell out of your D.
Yeah, and then they hit you. And the thing is, too, they're giving you different looks. They have given you different looks. And tonight they went with this 1-2-2 wide.
I noticed that. You mentioned that after game 2. I noticed that tonight as well.
1-2-2 wide, which is it's trying to take away from getting out the weak side, right? So really quick.
Here it is, everybody. It's
really
back.
quick.
It's back.
Yeah. This F1 right here will come aggressive. This F2 takes away the wall. And F3 is over here. So if the puck goes wide, he steps down right away. And that's what they did a majority of the night. And so the ice that's available, and there you saw a turnover probably, 14 minutes ago in the third period. McAvoy tries to hit, like, this is a area of the ice that's available, and he tries to hit that. It leads in a turnover, which I don't mind, because at least they recognize that this is where they got to go, because the whole rest of it and every other time they just boom, boom, and it's a turnover right there. Zone exits and forecheck just needs a drastic change, and it's harder to change the zone exits because you can't anticipate, because Florida, and to their credit, has given you 3 different looks. That's harder. On the forecheck, you've got to be more aggressive. You've got to create turnovers, and you've got to diversify. You've got to diversify your offensive zones. And I don't want to say sets, because this isn't like basketball or anything like that, but you've got to create 2-on-1s against man-on-man. And every time the puck goes low to high, your third guy sits at the top of the circle, does not come up to support like Toronto and Florida has done. They haven't.
No.
Tonight I'm frustrated because it's been a long day. I was up at 6:40. I was up at 6:45 for God knows what. Like I had to go get ice cream sandwiches for a class today. Then I had chapel class. Then I went and watched the Mass Hockey Fest. So I'm mad today.
You had a long day. You've had a long day. We can respect that. We can, and you still remembered to bring the whiteboard. We appreciate that.
I had to find the marker though.
I had to find the marker. I agree with you, and I think we can. I mentioned like not getting high danger chances, not getting to interior ice, and it stems from bad zone exits. They don't ever. It never seems like they come through the ice, come through the neutral zone with the puck cleanly. It doesn't see. When they're in the O zone, it's all perimeter, and they're even chasing those plays. And as you said, and I mentioned this earlier, they're not the forecheck. It's like you're just sitting back and letting Florida's too good, I think, to just sit back and let them make a decision, right? You away with against Toronto, a team like Florida who has good puck movers. I mean, I know Ekblad's been coughing the puck up a little bit, but Montour and you can't give them time, and their forwards are too good. And as you said, Florida's better. Florida is the better team. No one is disputing that. But there are ways, and we saw it in game one. We saw it in the third period. There are ways you can be in a position to win, and they're not doing them. They're just not. And I don't understand the lack of adjustments. I don't. Spoke Z's coming and dropping some knowledge. We love Spoke Z. Spoke Z is a good friend. He said, "Okay, one serious comment from me. F1 and F2 are way too far apart on the forecheck." And I mean that's you're not pressuring. I almost said Toronto. You're not pressuring Florida enough at all. And that's, I think that to me, that's like the crux of your problems. That and your own zone exits are just bad right now. And people are asking about McAvoy, and that continues to seem to be an issue. I mean, he was super physical tonight, so I don't know if it's an injury, right? If he was injured, if there was something there, I don't know if he's finishing all his hits and going out of his way to hit people. I think, I don't know. I just wonder if it's in his head with moving the puck and breakouts, because there's a lot of turnovers. What do you think?
With McAvoy in general, I think it's one of those things where I think he's trying to do too much. I don't think naturally he's a gifted offensive player, and by that, I think well established through these conversations, he's a high 40 to low 60 point guy in the National Hockey League. I think where you've asked him to take on first line minutes, and by first line minutes, he's playing against other teams' top line, and you're asking him to be an offensive threat, and you're asking him to be physical. I think that's taken a toll on him throughout the season, and he's clearly not playing at his best. And for what reasons, we won't know until the end of the playoffs. He's still a really good hockey player. He's someone you want on your team moving forward, but in order to get out and have a chance in this round to get back in the series, he's got to be far better than he is. And that comes, number one, with managing the puck. He's turned it over far too much. He's trying to, I would love to say he's trying to make high leverage plays. He's really not. I mean, a lot of the turnovers have come from chipping it up the glass. I mean, the one that he turned over, and again, I'll acknowledge this, the one that he turned over midway through the third period. I love it. The one that he turns over to the middle of the rink.
Middle of the ice.
Yeah, he turns over to the middle of the ice. It ends up Forsling taking a clapper right down the slot that Swayman makes a save. I don't mind it, because at least he recognized there, I got to get it to middle ice here. That's what's available. And I think on that turnover, and I think Swayman might have been surprised by the pass, and I think he got a stick on it that knocked it into Forsling's lane. But yes, he hasn't played well. I think everyone recognized that. He hasn't played to his level. In order to get back in the series, he's got to be better. He's got to be better at managing the puck. But I think he's got to have to get some help from a coaching staff as to establish, hey, here's what we need to do to beat these different forechecks. If you recognize these early, let's go to this. Because, again, Florida sent a 1-2-2, and that weak side ice was available. Great. They made a couple of those passes tonight. Now, once Florida recognized that, they went to a wide 1-2-2, taking away that pass. Now the middle ice becomes available. And then when they saw that pass was available, now they're super connected. And this is what Florida does so well. And I don't remember if it was Spoke Z, like talking about the Bruins forecheck. They're too far apart.
It was Spoke Z. Z.
Florida's forecheck is so connected. And by that, I mean, once they recognize that the first forechecker is going to make contact, those other two players are right up on an available player, and they don't give you time and space the way that the Bruins have. And you would think, because you are so fearful of Florida's forecheck, that you wouldn't want to let them get the puck back. So you think that your forecheck would be more aggressive from the start of the game, not wait till you're down 4-0 to change up. You've got to establish something early. And you've had the opportunity tonight, by whatever means, right, for you to get that crowd going. Bases were loaded. And as Luke Chason, one of our followers, would say, many ways to dictate the outcome, right? You could have been physical. You could have been physical. You could have got a goal, maybe a little bit of a scrum, maybe an altercation. You could have done a lot of things to get that crowd going. 3 shots in the first period. That is striking out looking with the bases loaded.
To me, that's the most concerning part, right? Like a lot of these things we've harped on and we'll continue to, bad zone exits, not a good enough forecheck, all that stuff. The fact that you came into tonight, and as you said, bases were loaded, all the juice was on your side in terms of momentum. You know, Tkachuk challenges your star player, and your star player goes with it, and you come out and get 3 shots and just do nothing in the first. Like, to me, that's where the issue is. I don't understand. It was set up there. Now, granted, and I'm not making excuses for them, Darren Drager reported today that Colin Campbell was in the building tonight for supplementary discipline on things to make sure things didn't go haywire. Doesn't you can still create momentum. You can still, and they did finish hits, but there just wasn't enough other stuff. And it's funny because off the opening draw, Coyle went right, on the faceoff, went to the other side of the red line to talk to Barkov, like right in his ear, right before the draw, and then he got kicked out. Marchand went and did the same thing, and I thought, okay, that's going to be a tone setter. They're going to be all over the Panthers tonight. They're going to be physical. They're going to be hard. They're going to be hard on the forecheck. And then they just weren't. And the building was dead. I mean, this place didn't really come alive until that the DeBrusque goal. And then I was like, all right, but again, it's too little too late.
Yep.
So, I mean, you have this opportunity in front of you, and that's what worries me, right? If they lost 5-4 tonight and had all those other issues, but they came out way better in the first, okay, you know what? They lost a close game. There are things they can fix. You move on. But and again, I know, it was an empty netter and then a last-minute goal, so you make it 4-2. But it was 4-0 through 2, or no, it was 3-0 through 2 periods. Like, to me, that's unacceptable to have that opportunity in front of you in a big game 3. Everybody knows game 3s are where series kind of shift, right? The Panthers now have every ounce of momentum coming out of this game because they came in here and they survived what was supposed to be kind of a tough night for them. And, they controlled the game. They dictated the game, and they made the Bruins chase all night. And part of that's the Bruins' fault for lack of execution and strategy. Another part of that is just not rising to the moment at all. Like that to me is extremely concerning. Because what are they going to look like coming out in game 4? Is this going to be what wakes them up? I thought, what happened at the end of game 2 would be what does it, but just nothing at all. Nothing at all. Disappointing. It's funny. People were asking me this morning. They were like, "Tonight's going to be crazy at the Garden, right?" I'm like, when you expect it, it doesn't happen. So I had a feeling coming in, like, okay, it's never as good as you think, right? Carl, you've been around longer than me. When nothing's as good as you think it's going to be, and nothing is as bad as you think it's going to be. Tonight was. I knew it wasn't going to be as good as people thought, but I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it ended up becoming. So, just bad tonight, I thought. But that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
And something you've got to figure it out. And if it's a game, it might be on. And we're talking about the start here. This is what I'm talking about. If it's a game here and there, you say it's maybe it's on the coach. Maybe you took on the personality of the mannerisms of that coach that day, depending on what he's talking about pregame. This is now you look at games 5 and 6 in Toronto. You look at games 2 and 3 here, where your starts just aren't good enough. Where you're going through 2 periods of play with under 10 shots in each of those 4 games. At some point, that's on the players. Right? Like that's on the players. Right? Like now, I don't think you have a roster that's good enough to compete with Florida over the course of a 7-game series. And in order for you to beat them, everything has to go right, and you've got to play to your maximum potential. But for 4 games across huge playoff games, and you've come out with nothing. That's on that locker room, really, because you don't get many kicks at the can to have an opportunity to win a Stanley Cup. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Boston's capable of winning a Stanley Cup. But if you get your breaks like you did in 2019, you're sitting in the Stanley Cup Finals, and who the hell knows what can happen in that scenario, right? Like you had it on the road where you went up 1-0, right? And great win, and that game 2 was huge. And all right, it didn't go your way, so you thought, all right. And I thought they are going to push back tonight. And if they lose, it's going to be a 3-2 tight checking, but they gave it everything to see if they could push back at Florida. And I don't mean physically, but I mean with energy, with forecheck, with shots and getting to that interior ice that you talk about. And they didn't do any of that until they were down 4-0.
No, they didn't. At least they didn't get a too many men call tonight. Gotta give them credit. Gotta give them some credit, right? They didn't take a too many men call. Some interesting quotes out of the locker room. Montgomery quote, "I gotta come up with a better game plan." That's a pretty big quote. So we'll see if anything comes of that. I mean, again, like we've talked about this, and they keep running back the same breakout. And this is 2 straight years now with Montgomery. This team struggles moving the puck out of their own zone. And you know, I forget what their breakout was last year, but Florida forechecked the hell out of them. I remember that. But again, like they've had the same breakout for the whole playoff for the last 2 series now. And what would you game plan wise, right? You're going into game 4.
So
what are you changing?
So you can't have a set breakout, right? Like, and I think you look at, and right, this, not that many people pay attention to the hirings of the Montreal Canadiens, but when Martin St. Louis was picked as the head coach at Montreal, he said this, right? He's like, you can't have systems and or structure because the game changes shift to shift. So you got to be able to make reads. Now, as a coaching staff, you got to help through video, and then you're walking through it at a practice. What are the reads that you're seeing? What are the right? Like every time a quarterback calls out, what is that? Mike is 52, like the mid inside linebacker or whatever, right? You've got, what are the tells that Florida is going to go into this 1-2-2? If I recognize that right away, that read would be on the F3. I see that F3 is sitting high and they're all on one side of the ice. All right, I gotta get the puck to the other side. Right now, and this falls on Lindholm a lot, and I talked about it in the last series. He turns over the puck a lot because he never shoulder checks, so he doesn't know what's coming, and so it does. It's that, and this is where it's hard to make those reads if that first forechecker from Florida is so aggressive. But can you have some urgencies in your retrievals? Can you give that quick shoulder check? And now you're reading F3-ish, really, like whoever that middle guy is supposed to be. Is he in the middle of the ice? Is he on that weak side? Or is he coming after me right away? Right, with that 2-on-2. And that one, those are hard. And you're going to have a different breakout based off what you think you're seeing. And that is, at that level, with those players, that's a conversation. That is, you get up on the whiteboard and you say, all right, hey, they're going to do a soft 1-2-2. Let's go D to D. Let's come out the weak side. Maybe what I would do if you see that 1-2-2 is you go weak side and you stretch like a winger somewhere along the way, just to pull Florida's defense out. Now, if it goes to that 1-2-2 wide, where the second forechecker is a little bit wider, now that middle of the rink is open that Charlie McAvoy tried to hit. And then 2-1-2, it's a little bit harder. It'd be some sort of reverse to a defenseman or a center. And so it's just got to be showing video clips of, maybe, and they would have the advanced stats, I would think, on forecheck of what you see more often, what you see in different scenarios, maybe different patterns of the game, up a goal, down a goal, what kind of forechecks are they giving? To me, it just looks like they are just really showing you different looks to confuse you as much as you can. The only one consistent being is that first forechecker is aggressive and physical.
What do you do about a guy like McAvoy, who clearly seems to be fighting it right now with the puck? At times doing a little too much, turning it over. Like, how as a coach do you approach that with a guy or a kid or whoever? Like, what's the strategy there?
Yeah, I don't think it's too different than what he did last night or yesterday in his press conference, where he's trying to build him up. I think he's in an incredibly difficult situation in the sense that in order for him to be effective, he needs to be physical. Knowing that Florida and Toronto targeted him, like, he gets hits more than 6 times a game every night. So I am just in his ear telling him how important he is to our team. You're going to find your game, simplify the passes, 5-foot passes. Don't look to try to do too much. And this would be the key thing for him. Don't try to outskate the first defender. Get to it, make your read, make the first pass you see. That's it. Right? Like, a lot of the time he tries to beat that first forechecker, and then the game speeds up on him a little bit too much. So, yeah, you're important to us. You're taking a lot of minutes. You've been doing a great job eating minutes for us. Make the simple play. Let's get it out of our own end right now.
Yeah, there hasn't been enough. There hasn't been enough of him executing those, and I think it's hurting them. And you even saw, I think, right before low-rise high sticking penalty, the Bruins had a huge. That was their first long offensive zone sequence of the game. I think it was the second period, and it was McAvoy who gave the puck away. I think it was in neutral ice, and or at the top of the zone. And it's little plays like that. And again, that doesn't directly lead to a goal, but the Panthers score twice on that low ride penalty. So again, I think just wasn't their night. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I know we'll actually have some sound coming soon from the locker room because our great producer Amit is here. But he'll let me know when those are in. There's a lot I think we can get to in terms of where we think this series is going. What Florida's doing so well. We might have to discuss the goalies, Carl, just for a little bit. We might have to. I saw some comments going each different way. But first, a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks.
Quick break in the action to tell you about my good friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan, from basketball and hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. And the best part, quick withdrawals. And it's easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. As the Bruins playoffs roll on, I'm liking the pick of Jeremy Swayman more saves. He's just been so good of late. And you know what? I also like Jake DeBrusk more goals. So download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, Back to the show.
In terms of things that went his way tonight, Sam Bennett coming back was huge. Sam Bennett comes in, it was first or second shift, him being back just rocks David Pastrnak along the wall. Pastrnak turned to, do something with the puck and just got crushed. Bennett finished with 7 hits. I think him being back in the series swings obviously momentum in their favor because now they're a 2-line team. They're more than just a 1-line go type team. Someone said CLNS. I like the over on Evan talking about goaltending in the next 5 minutes. Now I'm gonna go. I guess I'll see. I'll play with you on that one. But I think Bennett. I do think he swings things for Florida. I think he gives them I think it helps Kachuk. You mentioned it like with game 2. It was like, okay, you at least got one out of no Bennett, but I do think he makes a real difference.
No, he's a good player. He is a player that every team wants in the sense that he's physical. He plays the game hard, but he's able to chip in offensively. And you look at the second power play goal, right? Like he passes it through the seam there to Tarasenko. And you heard the telecast talk about it. Like that was a pregame scout. See how Boston's penalty killers adjust up top, but he's still a good enough player to make those seam passes and finishes the game with 7 hits and probably is a more effective player in the playoffs than he is in the regular season because ice gets tighter and he can play in tighter ice.
He can, and I think that made a big difference tonight. I keep going back to I'm just shocked at the Bruins' lack of response. I thought that was the one, we know offensively they're not great, right? They have holes offensively, but to not answer what happened last game, to me is, I don't know what their plan is. I don't know what was said in the room before. We'll get some audio here in a bit, but I just don't understand the lack of response. One interesting thing though, offensively, both Bruins goals came from shots upstairs.
Yep.
Shots upstairs. And we said it after game 2. I will say it after game 3. I'm not sold on Bobrovsky. Like he's not getting enough shots to backstop them to 2 wins. But I mean, you're not even getting enough chances. And a lot of the stuff is perimeter when they are in the offensive zone. And you've got to shoot on this guy more. Like these shots from and I will say there were a couple of shots through traffic that he didn't see that either just missed the net or trickled just past him. DeBrusk hit the crossbar. Like he's beatable. He is beatable, but they're not getting enough chances for those bounces to go their way.
I don't even know what to say to that at this point because CLNS, if you don't possess the puck, you can't shoot the puck. And when you have the puck and you don't shoot the puck, how are you ever going to test high glove, high blocker on Bobrovsky? Yeah.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, like, you need to get to that point.
Yeah. No, so he's beatable. Instead of playing around with the puck on the outside, shoot the puck and see what happens.
I know.
And I know that at some point in this comment section, essentially talking about old time hockey, dump it in, that's stupid, dump and chase. But the last 2 teams that you've played in the playoffs, it's dump and chase, it's physical, it's interior ice. That's how you win the playoffs. The game hasn't evolved that much. Like we're playing IIHF rules with wide rink and no hitting. Like this is still the National Hockey League. The game is played on a tighter rink and it's playoff hockey. Shoot the puck, get to the net.
That's what I don't get. So they play with it on the perimeter. It gets to the point, and then the play just dies. That's it gets to the point, and then nothing happens. And it's like, okay, they either throw it down low, and Florida picks it up and just breaks it out, or they shoot into traffic. But again, like when they have it, and you saw it in the third period a little bit more. They threw it on net more. And at least it generated chances. At least it generated, chances of chances. But again, you hit on it. They didn't have the puck enough in the first and second period to really even do that. And their forecheck's not aggressive enough for when they do dump it in. There's no ability to even get the puck back. And I don't know if they think that the 1-2-2 being super passive is what's going to force turnovers. Because even then, like a lot of times, if Florida's D have the puck below the faceoff dot, right, and they're skating out of the zone, a lot of times the two forwards that are high are back, between the red line and blue line already. And so even if they do turn it over, like, look where you're at. So I just there's a lot that goes into it.
I think Evan's Wi-Fi might have cut out, and for me, oh, sorry, did you cut out?
Am I back?
Yeah, I was just about to take over. I think I was about to take over, and that's what everyone. They were looking forward to that. They were looking.
They were. It's your show. You can have it. I'll head out of here. I'll see you guys later.
No, I mean, the 1-2-2 will work with turnovers if your first forechecker is ferocious. That hunts the puck with such ferocity and is physical, that puts the fear in you that you've got to chip the puck and get rid of it. Otherwise, if that player, and for the most part, Boston's forecheck, that first forechecker is not hunting. He's just there to, I don't know what he's there to do. It's to, all right, I'll tell you what he's there to do. The first forechecker is there to force you up the strong side. Not really there to hit you right now. It's not really to put stick on puck. It's just to try to put you and angle you into this one spot. But Toronto did it all, and I'm going to Toronto because this is what Florida does. If it gets back out that weak side, you have that defenseman has plenty of time and space because the other two forecheckers sitting back. So it doesn't matter. Like, Evan, no offense to you or I, if we were that second defenseman and we got the puck on the weak side and we're not under duress, we could make a 10, 20-foot pass. I know, like, we could do it.
Could skate it if I needed to.
I don't know.
It'd be quick, but we could at least make a pass. We'll give ourselves the pass. I think you could. I don't know. The NHL level, I don't think I could. You proved you could. I am not remotely close to that. Men's league, sure. Men's league or high school hockey, sure, but not quite the NHL. You know who I thought played a good game tonight? I thought Jakub Lauko actually did bring energy, and we actually audio from the locker room talking about that play. I think it's that drive to the net. So here's Jakub Lauko. Are you seeing this? Is he talking?
I see the video, but he's not saying anything.
Yeah, we're gonna remove him. All right, sorry guys. Maybe not quite yet.
I don't know if I can say something about it, but I don't know what's the role on this particular play. But I don't have any much room to avoid a goalie, to be honest.
Seems like you got a little shove into the goal on that rush.
I mean, yeah, I was trying to get to the net and just ended up in a goalie. Like, I don't know. I felt that the defenseman was holding me and like kind of pushing me inside. So I don't know, like, what am I supposed to do to avoid it?
How frustrating was that for you and your team to go through that?
I mean, obviously, like, sort of things that kind of like are hard to accept, but that's the part of the game, and we need to play through it.
Yeah, again, I thought, right, I don't know how that was called goalie interference. You could see him get pushed by Ekblad, and I think the fan response pretty much tells you that was not a penalty. There were a lot of questionable calls tonight. I mean, there was that interference on Morgan Geekie early that was just finishing a hit, and they called that. And they clearly didn't want the game to get out of hand. And there were some makeup calls for Florida too. And it's not why the Bruins lost, but I mean the officiating tonight was not good. Lauko, though, I do think was an added boost to you. I mean, he was quick on pucks. I thought he was quick on forechecks. He was super physical. He was in everything. But you need him like that all the time, right? We've seen this a couple of times where he comes into the lineup, does that, and then over the course of time kind of teeters off and then needs to be like sat down again so he does it. But I mean, he gets a goal tonight on a nice, again, shot it high. It goes in. But I think for what he can do, forechecking wise, physicality, to me, he stays in this series, I think.
Yeah, I think you're at the point where you probably play your fastest lineup. I think some of the commenters have been spot on in the sense that being overly physical with Florida is not going to scare them. It's what they do. They play hard on every shift. So as Boston's lineup, you got to get a little bit quicker. You've got to put more pressure on them. You got to put more pressure on their D. You got to like we talked about the other day, you got to close out defensively, which I think they, by and large, did a better job of tonight, eliminating those shots from the point. But you got to play with more pace. And I don't know what's available to you, but your lineup has got to get faster, and it's got to get faster. You've got to create turnovers with your feet, with your speed, and Lauko does that. And I think he deserves to stay in. But you're going to have to adjust that lineup. And right, like, who knows if you have Marchand or not. I know they said upper body injury, but yeah, you've got to get quicker.
Again, there was no update on Marchand. I don't believe they didn't have it at that time. I mean, he was slowing it up a couple times. I remember Sam Bennett and him collided early in the game, and he slowed to get off the ice, and he was very involved with the physicality of it. So again, I don't think they had an update. In the event he doesn't play in Game 4, I mean, that's a huge loss.
Yeah,
I don't care what people think of Mark. It's a big loss. You got to reshuffle the deck. You've got to figure out your top six, right? Like, off the top of my head, you've got already there in the top six. You've got DeBrusk, Geeky, Coyle, Zacha, and Pasternak. So who moves in? I mean, do you move Frederick in? Like, that's the question for me of how do you replace that? Because that's a big chunk of your offense gone. He's your captain. Like, I don't know exactly how you would replace him, Like, that's a huge loss if you're out, if you don't have him Sunday. Huge loss.
Yeah, you're look at your top six. If you're out Marchand, which is difficult to replace, I don't think you have anyone that's left that can potentially help you there. You've gotten less than zero from Zacha. I think, and you can see for Montgomery, he's not sure what to do with Pavel Zacha right now because he's floating around on different lines. He's moved him from center to wing. He's kind of been a little bit all over the place, and that's going to be a level of frustration, obviously for Zacha, but for Montgomery too, because you've got 2 assists through 10 games, right? Does that sound correct?
With who did you just mention?
With Pavel Zacha?
Yeah, it hasn't been nearly enough. Has not
and
been
then
nearly enough.
Charlie Coyle's got 3 or 4 points in the playoffs. I mean, so you were pushing back at me all year when I told you you did, right?
I did. I did during the regular
comment section.
Because it looked fine.
I just want to say, comment section all year, or the people that have tuned in nicely to listen to the two of us talk for the majority of the playoffs. Thank you, A. But then B, all year I said to Evan that you don't have a good enough first line center to win playoff games. And where are we at right now?
They haven't been. And to me, I think they looked good enough throughout the year where I thought they could. My whole thing was they didn't need to add a center at the deadline because how are you going to do that? That was my big thing, right? They do need one. Like, there's no doubt. If you can, and we said this after Game 6, if you can go out in the offseason and trade for a number one center, you do that. You have to do that. Now, again, the question, like,
who are you going to trade?
We talked about this. That is the other part of it.
Yeah, no, let's not get there now. Still, we'll keep that.
We'll full steam ahead. And you have Patra, obviously, and that's a very exciting thing. You don't know what you have in him quite yet. But yeah, I mean, I think the lack of a play driving center at the moment that can set up and make plays and skate through zones and zone entries, and you don't really have that at the moment. And there was even a shift where Montgomery took off Zacha off that line. It was Maroon, Geeky, and Pasternak for a time. And I wonder, and this is something that we probably get into later on in this playoff series and when the offseason begins. I do wonder if they look at Zacha as a wing going forward. Like face-off wise, play driving, I wonder if they look at him as a long-term wing over that. Over being, because going into this season, and I think even throughout the season, I thought, like, okay, he might be a number one center, but the more these playoffs have gone on, I mean, teams are just kind of shutting him down, and there doesn't seem to be any pushback from him, right?
From Zacha?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's his game. I think that's why they probably view him as a left winger long term, is because below the goal line he doesn't provide you with any pushback. He's not really going to win one-on-one battles there behind the net in order to break pucks out. So I think you put him in a situation where I think what he does really well is he puts pucks into space, allows his teammates to kind of be successful because he does see the ice well. So at that wing position, probably suits his skill set a little bit more than having to be a below the goal line defender. I don't think he's ever really going to be good at that. I think he can be a successful second line left winger like he was not this current year, but the year before when he was playing with Pasternak and Krejci.
Yeah, I don't think he should be traded either. There were some people alluding to that. We have some sound from Brandon Carlo in the locker room, so we'll cut to that right now. Hear what Brandon Carlo had to say.
Couldn't really generate much the first two periods. Some desperation got you going in the third. What are your emotions after this as you look on it and now going into game 4?
Yeah, I think you try and take some positive from the third period there. We did have a little bit of a push, created some opportunities. I will say that he made some good saves as well. And then we obviously put 2 in the back of the net. So you look for the positives within that. We're always going to look at the things that we don't like about our game and learn from them. But regardless, that game's in the past now and we have to look forward. So I would say just take what we can from the opportunities that we did generate, and from there work on the rest.
Yeah, I mean, what he said, I don't understand like what he's saying. I don't get, where's the push? Where is the push at the start?
Yeah.
Like that, I can't get over that. That's my biggest takeaway from this game is, where was the push? David Pop, I don't get that.
But and again, like this is the one thing we said earlier. That's something you've seen 4 times throughout this playoffs so far. Games 2 and 3 of this one, right? Like what you understood. I understood game 2 here in Florida because Florida's too good to play the way they did in game 1. You knew that there was going to be significant pushback from Florida. So Boston flat, 16 shots through 3 periods. My expectation tonight was a physical brand of hockey in the first period where everything was thrown at net, understanding what we've talked about, right? Vulnerability from Bobrovsky up top. It never came to fruition. 3 shots. And so this wasn't a tonight only situation. This is a pattern with this team throughout the playoffs where they haven't shown up to start games. And if you don't show up to start games here in the playoffs, you're not going to be successful. You can't consistently put yourself in a scenario where you've got to claw your way back into games. That's where fatigue sets in because it's hard to chase the game all the time. In the last whatever that is now, 4 of the last 6 games, you're chasing it.
Yeah. Chasing it big. And to me, like when it was 3-0 after the second, it's like this team does not have enough offensive firepower to complete a comeback. Now they did get 2 goals. I'll give them that. And they did have a good power play after, but they just didn't. To me, like from how I saw it tonight, like David Pastrnak was trying to make plays. I didn't think Pastrnak had a bad game tonight. That's just me. But there's not that next guy that can help. Right, for so long it was Pastrnak with Bergeron and Marchand, or even last year where it was Krejci, Pastrnak, and Zacha. Geeky's great forechecking. He's a nice plug-in guy in the top 6 in January when you have an injury. He's not a permanent guy up there, and I don't know if Zacha can drive a line. So to me, like that's where you do need supplementary offensive help. And if it's a number 1 center, again, this is all stuff down the road. I don't want to like buoy this down with trade talk now. The series is 2-1. The Bruins could easily come out in game 4 and wipe the floor with Florida like they did in game 1. It's like we're like, oh my God, this team. But they're unpredictable. That's the problem, right, Carl? Like this is a very up and down, peaks and valley. They are truly the box of chocolate Bruins. You never know what you're going to get. And that's what they've been all year. That's what they are this series.
And so this is why, and I'm not saying he would have won it, but this is why I think Pastrnak was a Hart Trophy candidate. Like all year, people had talked about the disparity between Kucherov and the next highest scorer, which was Braden Point. There is no one close to Braden Point on this team right now. Right, like I think by and large people would see that as Brad Marchand, but he's not the same player that he was 2 years ago. So you had a guy that had 110 points, and then the next, what's Marchand at 67, something like that.
I think it was 67 points.
Yeah, the comment section's right. Like if you shut down Pastrnak, who are you concerned at taking over a game? There is no one. Right, like Charlie Coyle has proven when he's a third option, he's a great player. Like that team's going to be really successful if Charlie Coyle is a third line guy because that's a matchup nightmare. The same like Morgan Geeky, exactly what you say he is. He's a very nice player in the National Hockey League. If he has to fill in on that second line, great. But he's not a long-term solution like you're trying to make him right now. But I want him. Like I don't want to get.
I want a guy like him. I want a guy like him.
I want him and his 39 points or 38 points on my third line. Like that's hard to replicate. There's not many of those guys floating around that can play center, that can play wing, that can spot in my second line every now and again and produce and keep the regular season the regular season train going is what he did at times this year. But you ask him to do something that's outside of his capabilities, then that's when you struggle. That's where you're at right now. You're asking him to play top 6 minutes consistently over 10 games. He's not going to produce at that level, but keep him. A very good player. I want him, but there is no second layer of attack. It becomes now you've got 2 third lines as opposed to a second, third, and fourth line, right? Like you've got
that's
2
the problem.
Yeah, you've got 2 third lines and then a fourth line.
That's the issue. That right there is the issue. And the other issue is you can't get the puck out of your own zone, but you have good enough D back there that should be able to do it. We're going to have Jim Montgomery on in a second. Not us. Like he's not like coming on. He's not going to like come sit here and be like, hey, like, like, oh, hey, Monty, pull up a chair. What happened tonight? It won't be that, but his presser will air that. But first, a quick word from our friend at Game.
Quick break to tell you about my good friends over at Game Time. I am very excited about the NBA playoffs, and what's awesome is here in Boston, TD Garden is the best atmosphere for a playoff game. Thankfully, we have Game Time, which is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Maybe it's the NBA playoffs or it's the NHL playoffs. The same is true with the Bruins. TD Garden gets so fun during this time of year, and you want to be there. The Bruins and Celtics are in pursuit of championships, and as the rounds go on, the crowd gets better and better. Nothing beats it. And with Game Time, there's last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. There's flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. And there are zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Again, take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets and head over to Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code, again, CLNS. I can't be more clear about that. Use code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Now, back to the show.
So we should have Jim Montgomery coming up here in a second. This was after the game tonight. So we'll take it to Jim Montgomery.
Start, how much of it was you and how much of it was them just being better?
Me personally? Not time for jokes, probably, right? We started well the first two games. I think you're referring to Toronto series?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had, a couple of games where we started slow and we haven't generated much offense. And, we got to get better. I have to give the players a better plan, Florida was significantly better than us. I got to come up with a better game plan.
Go ahead, Tara.
Jim, you weren't afraid to say last game we need some more from our big players. This is in the postseason. You make big plays. You getting enough from your best players?
Yeah, I thought Swayman, Pasta, I thought they were our two best players tonight.
You said a couple of times now, that's on me, I've got to do this and so forth. Are you speaking in terms of preparing the team mentally for the game, or are you...
Whichever way you want to take it. It's not good enough. We didn't play well enough. That's why I take the responsibility.
Okay, just to finish the question, are you suggesting that changes might be made for the next game, or is it just the latter?
It's too early to be able to talk about changes. We got to do our due diligence and look at the game again and see who is executing and who's playing with the effort that you guys have asked about.
Did you notice, Carl? He was asked if his top players were performing, and he avoided talking about Zacha and McAvoy and, the rest of the top six. It was all just Swayman and Pastrnak, and he did that. He's not calling anybody out at this moment. He's not. That was a break glass in case of emergency thing with Pastrnak after Game 6. What was your big takeaway from that?
Yeah, I think two things, and I think they try to get there at the end, but a follow-up after is, what do you mean better game plan? And not like, not the question mental or, the X's and O's. It's clearly the X's and O's. When you were talking about a better game plan, that's what he's talking about. I need to be better, X's and O's. I need to give them a better structure for them to be successful. Like, the positive psychology at this point is out the window, right? Like, you're not gonna change that all that much. Like, at this point, he knows how to handle his players, or at least he should. He knows the personalities there in the room and how to deal with them. So what he's talking about, he has failed them, and this is me saying this. I'm saying he says he has failed them from a game preparation standpoint. And so what are the changes that we've watched the games. Everyone here, for the most part, even 6 1/3 from Toronto, thank you so much. You've watched the games 6 1/3 against Florida, I'm guessing. The forecheck's the same. The breakout, the zone exits are the same. Has any, yes, periodically zone exits may be marginally different, but by and large, they're the same thing all the time. That is on him. And that coaching staff, they've got to make And I think the easiest thing to change is that forecheck. Let him loose. So what? It's tiring to play a 2-1-2. Get after it. 2-1-2 in the first period. We'll come back with a 1-2-2 in the second period and sit back. Like, you've got to make a change. They haven't done it, and that's what he's talking about. The number 2, what you're talking about, he didn't call it. I don't think it's really you're not, I'm going to say this, and you're not desperate. Like, when did he call him out?
No, it's 2-1. It's 2-1. You're not at that point yet.
Yeah, so I think that's why he doesn't want to call any of those guys out quite yet. Maybe after game 4, if they're brutal again, then that's when he might have to call some of those guys out. Or maybe he understands it too. Those guys aren't good enough to consistently call out. Like, they're not going to be the ones. Like, he could call out McAvoy. He could call out Pastrnak. He can call out Marchand. Those are guys that are good enough to turn a game on its head, like, at any given moment. But I think we know Zach and Coyle aren't capable of doing that in this series. So
we opened a can of worms with the Zaka stuff. The comments are just all Zaka. Lunchbox Lasers at one point said that Lysell was better than Zaka, and he's got Spoke Z. They're going at it. So we've got gloves are dropped in the comment section. I see, this is the thing, right? Like, if they run it back in game 4 with all the same stuff, all the same typical breakouts, same types of forecheck, how do you expect to come out any different? And they haven't done that yet, by the way. They have not come out with the same things in game 4. But in the event they do, you can't expect the game to be different. You can't expect to just suddenly win now. And like, that's where I think like Montgomery has to make changes. You have to make structural changes. You have to watch a ton of film over the next day. And again, as you said, like, it's not always breakouts aren't set. You know, you can react to them, and you know, sometimes yes, your center comes down lower, but it's mostly read and react. Is it watching more film? I don't know if they'll practice tomorrow. I haven't got an email yet about that. But it is watching more film and going over all that.
They email you? Like, does Montgomery email you personally when they're going to practice?
Yeah, he FaceTimes me and says, "Evan, this is when we're practicing today. We would love for you to be there.
Awesome.
You have a seat. You have your own seat. It's just for you. This is your seat." No, it's not that. It's the Bruins PR sends out an email to all the media people of who's speaking and when practices. It's not it'd be funny if it was like a group text and you accidentally send like, "Man, the Bruins stink tonight," and you actually send it in the group text with Montgomery in it. That'd be a great one. I just I think it comes down to the adjustments. This is a test because Florida's better. I mean, we've said this a thousand times, and this, like, Florida is the better team. We both picked Florida. But that doesn't mean you just go, "Oh, it's great, we're in the second round." Woo!
Yeah.
Like, you have to make the adjustments. And I think they can make it close. I know I mentioned that the Bruins don't have the offensive firepower that the Panthers do, and but they have the talent, and they've shown they've had the structure to keep it close and close enough to win. We saw it against Toronto. Game 1, they beat them 5-1, so that's a different thing. But we saw it during the regular season against Florida. And I think the reason that it's been close is Jeremy Swayman. Now we talk goaltending, right? Now is when we get into the goaltending.
Did you you won the bet there against, was it Kevin Walker?
I think I won that bet because did he say over 5 minutes that I would end up talking about within 5 minutes or under? I forget.
It's been a
while. I forgot about it. So if he said under, then I guess I win. Who do you go to in game 4?
I don't know. And like, Swayman's been great, and he's not the reason that you're struggling in this series. Right? There's a myriad of different things. It is Florida's better. You're under duress consistently. You haven't made structural changes that will make you successful. I take a long pause because I think you need to try to do something to wake up the team. But I'm fearful of that because Swayman's been so great, and that right? It's essentially you're pulling out a guy that has been so good to wake up a team that's been so mediocre for essentially, right? Like if you even look at Game 7 until the third period, they were a mediocre team.
They were. Were
Yeah.
they?
They were great through 4 games of that series, I thought. And they were great in Game 1. So half the games, I guess, of the playoffs, they've been great. But the others, they've just been mediocre. And they're not the way they played in Games 2 and 3 is not going to get it done. Do you try to wake them up by putting Linus Ullmark in? Man, if that's the way I'm leaning, but I hate it on my standpoint because Swayman has been so good. I had a goalie coach friend of mine said that's the first bad goal he's let up all playoff series, and that was the Tarasenko snipe because he doesn't read the pass, and then it's too deep in his net to get beat upstairs. He doesn't get out and challenge him. Right, he doesn't read the pass well enough to get out and challenge him, and kind of sits in on that goal crease. And obviously, Tarasenko is someone good enough to make that play. I hate that I'm saying try something different because if the Bruins try something different and Linus Ullmark wins, then you got to go back to him again. So
well, I mean that's not a problem. I don't think.
No, that has got to be addressed. Patrick Maroon should be out of the lineup.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't.
He should. I mean, he shouldn't be on line 1, but I think
you need to get faster. You need to get faster. The only and great player has he won 3 Stanley Cups?
Yes, I believe it's 3.
And he is by all accounts a valued member of any organization that he's been a part of. Unless you were standing next to him, he can't get to you to hit you. This series too fast for him. I don't know. Maybe out of the lineup's too harsh, but your lineup needs to get faster.
I like the immediate the mention of Maroon. You're like, I don't think he should be out. I think he's where he should be. And if to me, like if he adds, they do need to get faster. And Beecher and Lauko can provide that on that line. But I do like his added level of physicality, and I do like what he brings down low, holding on to pucks and puck protection.
What are you talking about?
What?
You like what he provides down low? That one shift where he held onto a puck, which was the one.
the one shift I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
But you need. I don't see. You need. He brings the physicality on the forechecks. You need that.
He doesn't get into forecheck.
Even as the second, when a guy like Beecher or Lauko is engaged in a battle down low, he can provide support. If they make the proper adjustments, he can provide the support. He's not coming out of the lineup. He isn't coming out of the lineup. But
yeah, I don't think he's
to go to your point, right? So then I would assume you would want Boquist in there. So you'd have Lauko, Beecher.
Is Heinen available?
What's the other thing? Like if Heinen's available, then I think you make a real question. But I don't know. I like Maroon's physicality. I like the puck protection. I don't think he had that one shit.
Yeah. When you don't have puck, you don't have possession of the puck. It's great to have him for that one shift.
When you do, I think there's no way they take him out of the line. That's a deadline acquisition. They don't take those out. I don't think they take those out. So we were discussing the goalies. And you want Linus Ullmark.
I don't know.
My initial thought was it is Swayman's net, and he's been damn good, and he has saved your ass a lot the last 2 games, especially.
Yeah.
However, and my stance on this is I want the goalie rotation. I wanted the goalie rotation going into the playoffs.
You got Spoke Z. You got Spoke Z on your that one shift.
If I'm on Spoke Z's side, I must be doing something right.
Yeah, Spoke Z. That's how it works. That one shift where they had a successful forecheck on all 16 shots tonight. Yeah, let's keep them in.
Smoke Z and you are both in top form. I like this version of Carl. This is awesome.
I'm overtired right now.
It's exactly it. We're gonna go 3 more hours just to keep
Okay.
you like that. So when you and I go to the Mass Hockey Festival tomorrow, so Smoke Z said people calling it the shift. Carl, you're gonna tell your grandkids someday about that.
I
shift.
am.
You're gonna tell your you say, man, remember when Pat Maroon was stiff arming people, just keeping people away from the puck? That was a real moment.
I want Spokesy and Evan to tell me from the shifts, right? The what other shifts out there? The Darren Helm PK against, I think that was Colorado. Darren Helm. What else is Brooks?
You agree, Greg Campbell against the Penguins. Remember that PK? Was outstanding.
And then the one time that Patrick Maroon possessed the puck for 15 seconds, and it resulted in what? What did it result in?
I blacked out after that. I don't remember what happened.
Okay.
It was just so stunning, and it was so incredible that I just Mike Richards was another. I think that was against the Habs.
Yeah, it was against the Habs. Halak came out. Yeah.
Yes, that was perfect. Wrecked the goalie. Speaking of goalies, I keep putting this off.
Okay, sorry.
I wanted the rotation going to the playoffs. Swayman obviously has been so good.
Vibes. It resulted in vibes. Yes,
that's exactly it. Vibes matter. Vibes per 60, the Bruins lead the league in. People forget that. Vibes and friendship per 60, the Bruins lead the league in. My take going into Game 3 tonight was, if Swayman has a banner night again, you keep him in. But if things go haywire, you go with Ullmark. I'm gonna stick with that. You try Ullmark here. This is where you try it. You just you roll with it, and if it doesn't, because again, and I hate contextualizing decisions like this because it's never a good way to do it. But if you're talking about like second guessing, they did the tandem all year, right? If this doesn't work, if Omar comes into Game 4 and gets shelled and looks bad, at least they tried it, right? And because the last 2 games they haven't even done enough to get Swayman a win. He's made big saves. He's made huge saves. There was that turnover that Rodriguez came in on and sniped one, but Swayman made the stop. But I think this is where you go with Ullmark. You try it. And after, the fact that Pastrnak fighting didn't get this team riled up, to me, thinks like nothing can get this team like a true fire. I don't think Ullmark coming in is going to completely change the way they're playing. I think the big thing is stylistically, strategically. But to me, you go with Ullmark in Game 4. I think it's time. I was coming into this thinking Swayman, but then the more you were talking about it and the more I was thinking I did just say after Game 3 or going into Game 3, if Swayman isn't amazing, and he was good tonight, Swayman made some huge stops, but I think you do go back to Ullmark. I do.
I just think and this is not a playoff Swayman. This has been, and I think Diego Bass and Jack O'Connor commenters on here could probably tell you I'm a Jeremy Swayman fan. I always thought that he should be the number 1 guy throughout the regular season as well. Give him the majority of the starts. I'm a fan of his game and the confidence that he brings to the rink each day. I just think you need a little boost here, and you didn't get the boost, right? Just like you said, you didn't get the boost from the Pastrnak fight. You're not getting a boost from elite play. That idea of not letting Swayman down because he's playing at such an elite level, it hasn't helped. Yeah. So I say, you either put Linus Ullmark in or you suit up Patrick Maroon and put him in net. Spokesy, absolutely.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Robert Hewlett asked me what was Swayman's goals allowed above expected tonight. I actually just went and tried to find it, Robert, and my natural stat trick won't load. So if someone wants to throw that in the chat, it just wouldn't load for me. So I don't know what it was.
What's the stat that I would look at?
Goals saved above expected, I believe. My brain's a little fried too.
Usually Diego Bass is good for that. It says expected goals against was 265. I don't know where the stat that you want to give me.
Well, again, how many of those were power play tonight? There were a couple power play goals. And again, I just go back to like, one of the goals was empty netter. One
There
of them
you
was
go.
late.
Diego just gave you the number down there. You decipher that for me?
Yeah. Swayman minus 1.34 goals saved above average. So, I just think you go back to Hallmark. I do. I think it's time in the series. And Swayman's been great too. He has. I can't say it enough. But I think this is when you go back to Hallmark. You give it a shot. You give it a try. You switch things up.
Yeah.
This is when you do it.
I think it was 4 on the power. Was it 4 on the power play tonight?
Someone said 3.
I know you had the 2 on the low ride, then you had the Rodriguez one late, and I guess it was 3 because then it was 1 empty netter and 4.
Spoke Z is saying he was 1.2 expected goals against at 5-on-5, and he had 1 goal allowed. So that is better. Like that would be pro Swayman. But I know other people. There are probably a lot of people that want Swayman. I think you go to Olmark in game 4. You give it a shot. Not saying it's going to be perfect, but you give it a shot.
Yeah.
People were saying it was 4 power play goals, which sucks. Right. That's ridiculous.
That's not good.
But again, a double minor in there. So I mean, in terms of this series, we'll wrap it up with this. Like, I don't feel different. Like this is going to be a close series. The last 2 games have not been close at all. It is still 2-1, but I think the Panthers are the better team, and that's what I think we've seen through 3 games. Are you in a different spot? Actually, you know what, Carl? Real quick, we do have Paul Maurice. I think we have Paul Maurice. Our great producer Amit is here. I think he has Paul Maurice queued up. So let's if Amit's there, let's cut to what Paul Maurice said.
When you talk about playing the Bruins, what is it that you're doing now to disrupt their game and be able to play your game that you weren't able to do in the regular season?
I think the difference between success and failure is so small that it's almost not measurable. There isn't a piece that I would say clearly we're better at this. All of those games are very. As a matter of fact, the 4 Bruin games were, I think, our 4 best games in some ways. And we lost them all. But they came and played playoff hockey, and so did we. In terms of if I'm paying money, this year I would say come to the Bruins when the Bruins and the Panthers play this regular season, because that's heavy and fast and mean and awesome, right? It's the way the game could be played, right? But this would probably be, I don't know, we're pretty much closer to our lineup tonight than maybe in any time. But those games, I don't walk off the bench tonight many nights after a loss in a particularly good mood. But I walked off the bench after losing each one of those games going, man, that was a hell of a game. So in the regular season, we were fine with it. It was very, very tight.
You know what it is, Carl? It's because he knew that they were due for 4 wins this time of year. He knew that the wins were going to come. He always seems like, Paul Maurice seems like a guy with all the answers. He always seems like someone who is astute and smart and a great coach. That's the vibes I get from him.
Yeah, no, I think having listened to him for, a few times here during the playoffs, and even with that answer itself, right? Like, he's not going to just answer off the top of his head, right? There's a pause. There's a thoughtfulness there. There's an approach. And it's been interesting to listen to him.
Paul really be Paulin. Yeah, that's exactly what it's right on. I love that. That's perfect. So to go back to what we were talking about before Paul Maurice rudely interrupted us. That was really uncool, Paul. I mean, come on, we're doing a show here. What do you feel about the series right now? Where are you at?
I think I said Panthers in 6 at the beginning of the series.
I think you might. I said Panthers in 7.
I think I said Panthers in 6, and I still feel that way. I think Boston's good enough to win another game. I just think you look at the trajectory of the series, and after that first game, which I think we both said Boston should and could win, or could and should win because of the intensity that they were coming off. Now just the last two games, Florida's getting closer and closer to what their best game looks like. And if they can replicate that, I don't think Boston has an answer for it.
That's the thing. If Florida brings it, that's a very hard game. That's a very hard series. To me, the key to game 4 is they have to come out in those first 10 minutes. We said this about game 3, but you have to come out in game 4 and set a tone immediately. And you need to make those differences that we talked about. You know, you have to. By the way, I don't know if people have noticed, you don't hear as much clinging and clanking behind me because they're not changing the court, the ice over to court, because the Celtics are going to Cleveland. So the ice is just there. I should go skate. I think I should get some reps in.
Is there anyone else in the building?
Yeah, there are. There's other people. Yeah, I'm not like the last one. They're like waiting to lock the place up because of me. But yeah, so I don't know. So Spokesy says, Evan, let's go to the drop and talk strategy and email our thoughts. Yeah, that'd be perfect. Maybe I will do that. There's still time tonight. Yeah, I mean, again, I think we're at the point now with this series where the Panthers are the better team. But I think the Bruins are good enough to make adjustments. I think they will make adjustments. I still think this series is going to be close. I think the Bruins have at least one more win in them. Maybe 2, maybe 3. Who knows? Yeah, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything we haven't touched that you have a burning thought on?
Yeah, your power play stinks.
That too. I forgot about that. We forgot to address that. We were talking so much about the offense. But yeah, the only good power play they had is at the end.
Your power play is not good enough. You have looked at and you watch how difficult it is to kill against Florida's because there's consistent puck movement, there's movement of bodies, and I think I've said this, you're stationary and you're reliant on David Pastrnak to get his shot off, and they take that away because there's no one else, and you don't make it hard, and
no.
It's been easy to kill. And I do Whiskey Rose, I am gassed tonight.
The fact that you put in an hour 20 is so admirable, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. It's just such a gutsy performance. We talked about remembering the shift. We'll remember this shift from you. This from you.
I want to find the Darren Helm shift. It's Darren Helm, Detroit, I think Chicago. It's a penalty kill. At the end of killing a penalty by himself down in the corner, he takes it across the goal mouth and almost scores. And then there's one shift, and I think in the Stanley Cup, Brooks Orpik has maybe 8 hits. It's great.
That I remember those. This isn't a specific person, but do you remember the end of game 4, Bruins Penguins in 2013, when the Penguins were in the last minute pressed for the entire shift, and Malkin almost scored, but Chara dove to block a shot and then put his arm back. You can go look it up, and got the shot with his arm and kept it out, and the Bruins ended up sweeping that series because of that shift. So that's a very underrated one. It wasn't like a singular person, but that, if you want to your heart rate to spike, watch that 1 minute. But yeah, Orpik, Helm, Greg Campbell. Lots of shifts that were great. By the way, M. Brewer, thank you for the donation and low ride punishment. Yeah, I thought low ride was great tonight too. I thought low ride was great. Again, he's proven himself, which is great. Well, anyways, Carl, I'm going to let you get to sleep because I'll be seeing you in person tomorrow. We'll be at the Mass Hockey Festival. So that'll be fun. We won't do a live show from there, but we can chat, which would be good. We should. Yeah, we should. Cam Karen's really standing out with the 07s, and David Bosco and Spencer Thornborough with the 08s. Actually, they aren't there because they got invited to national camp. some of these listeners might not know who those people are, but you will soon.
Yeah.
You will know those names at some point, probably.
Yeah.
So you can say we talked about them first. Anyways, Carl, we're presented by Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 matched on the first deposit. And go to Game Time. Want to get tickets? Use the code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Carl, this has been awesome. It's always fun.
Thanks.
Bruins lose 6-2. Series is 2-1 in favor of Florida, but we will keep streaming. We will always be here to stream after games. So we will see you after game number 4.